Hi, my name is Cynthia Evans with Simplifying Social Security, and today is another Tidbit Tuesday. And today we're going to talk about how my benefits are figured. I think that is one of the most common questions asked. How do they figure my benefits? I've worked all my life, and this is all I'm going to receive from Social Security. How do they figure that? How do they come up with that amount? Well, I'm going to give you some overview information to address some of the questions or issues about figuring your Social Security that you might have or you have heard, and maybe dispel some of the rumors that you have heard. Now, there are different ways of figuring benefits based on what kind of claim you're filing or what kind of benefit you're going for, such as retirement benefits are figured differently than disability benefits. But they are all based on what the worker has worked and paid into Social Security as to the amount of money that they receive. So we're going to look at both of these areas, retirement slash survivor benefits and disability benefits. How are my benefits figured? Now, when you are looking at this question and the answer to this question, there's some factors that we're going to look at to see how the benefits are figured. There are also what actions you can take to increase your benefit. And so let's go ahead and get started on some of these questions here. Now, when you look at how your benefits are figured for retirement benefits, especially, we or the Social Security Administration looks at your lifetime earnings. I've heard it said that they look at your last 5 years, your last 3 years, and they figure it from there. When they look at your retirement benefits, this is straight from the Social Security handouts or pamphlets or publications, and I'll have this information available when I post this website and this video. But straight from that information, it says, we, the Social Security Administration, base Social Security benefits on your lifetime earnings. We adjust or index your actual earnings to account for changes in average wages since the year the earnings were received. Okay, let's stop right there for just a minute. So we learned something here. Social Security looks at your lifetime earnings, not just your last 5, not your high 3. They look at your lifetime earnings, and then they index or adjust your actual earnings to account for changes in the average wages since the year the earnings were received. What does that mean? That means that let's say you worked back in 1970 and those earnings are adjusted, indexed for the changes that have occurred since the 1970 when you would have earned those wages. So they bring those earnings to a current value of 2022 or 2021, whichever you're talking about. So they index those earnings so those values are changed. So then it goes on to say, then Social Security calculates your average indexed monthly earnings. They take that new adjusted amount and then they use that for the last 35 years, which you earn the most. So your high 35 years are the earnings that they're looking at. Okay. Now, understand that if during that time period of the high 35 years, you had zero earnings that were the high years. Let's say you were self-employed, you didn't have a profit. On your Social Security record, it is going to show zero for that year because they're looking at the amount of money that you paid into Social Security. If you did not have a profit, you did not have any money to pay into Social Security. So what does that mean? that means that you will have a zero figured in those 35 years. Depending on how many years you had a zero, it might not make you eligible for either disability, if that's what you're figuring on, or retirement might be lowered because they are figuring those zeros in that average of those years that they're looking to for your retirement benefit. Okay, so then after the 35 years that you earn the most, so it's a high 35 over your lifetime. Okay, then they apply a formula for these earnings and arrive at their basic benefit, or what they call the primary insured amount. That's where they start off. That after they've done all the indexing, they look at the high 35 and they say, this is how much this person at the very max that we can pay on this record. Your basic benefit amount. This is how much you'll receive at your full retirement age. Okay? So all this is saying is that Social Security looks at your lifetime earnings, they adjust those earnings, and then they look at your indexed earnings. That's what they base your Social Security retirement amount, that is called your primary insured amount, your PIA, your primary insured amount. And that's how much you will receive at full retirement age. So let's break that down to a practical number, example, so to speak. Let's say you, for 35 years, you worked at the same job, had great increases, you've retired. More than likely, you will have a pretty substantial PIA, primary insured amount. Why? There's very few fluctuations. There are no 0 years. So when they index, bring those lower years up, those lower earnings up to today's earnings, and then you look at it and say, okay, that's going to be a pretty substantial, pretty acceptable in some ways amount. Let's say you are either self-employed, where you might have had 0 years, or you just did not have a steady work activity history. Well, you go up, you go down, you were unemployed, you were moving around, you didn't have any self-employment income. What is it going to look like? Well, you might have enough for retirement, because if you're insured for $1, you would be insured for some benefit. However, if you don't have enough, where you did not work and pay into Social Security enough, then guess what? You will not have high benefit. Let's say you just earned a few thousand a year. You did not have a high paying job or a job that was steady. So therefore, you might not have a lot of income coming in on your Social Security. Your PIA, your primary insured amount, is not going to be as high for you as it would be for someone who has worked and paid into Social Security with a different earnings record. So it's not what some people might believe, that Social Security just wants to put down your earnings and not have you receive benefits because of your work. No, it's what you have worked and paid into Social Security. It's what you have earned during the years for your Social Security benefit. Okay, what's another thing that we're going to look at? Before retirement. Even if you're not retired or retirement age, you can plan for retirement now, and I very, very, very strongly suggest that you do that. Go into the Social Security website, ssa.gov, and look up the online calculator, the online benefits, and see what you have worked and paid into Social Security. Make sure what they have on record is correct for you, because as we've seen, they're going to use those your high 35 years to calculate your primary insured amount. Understand, it is much easier, much easier for you to correct any inconsistencies now than to wait until you're 62, 60 if you're filing for widow's benefit and your deceased spouse had some problems on his or her earnings, and you're like, oh no, I need to correct these because I know this is not correct. Well, if the person is not here, that makes it very difficult. Make it a conscious effort every few years to make sure that your earnings are correct, even if you're not filing for benefits or you're not of age to file for benefits. That's part of your responsibility, because we are living in a time where people can work under your Social Security number, and you don't have any idea that it's being done until maybe the IRS or someone notifies you that you owe money on earnings that you did not work. If this ever happens to you and you have to correct your earnings, don't forget to contact the Social Security office and let them know that I'm having some issues with my Social Security number and someone has worked under my number. Can you help me make sure that my record is correct? Or go on there and you say, these are not my earnings. Because the Social Security Administration will have the same information on their system as what is showing up on your My Social Security account. And I suggest that if you're over the age of 18, start looking at that. Be proactive. Make sure that what you have on your record is correct. If it is not, change it. Contact the Social Security office. Start action to change that. Make sure that your employer has your correct Social Security number when they submit your W-2 form. Make sure that you are filing your Social Security self-employment under the correct Social Security number. Okay? That is so vital, because I have in my 29 years of working with claimants in the Social Security Administration, you look and you see that they have to go back years, when if they had just taken a time to investigate and to look at their earnings to make sure it's correct, we wouldn't have to go back 15, 20 years. It's easier to do it now when you can. And nowadays, you can just go in and set up a My Social Security account, and it will be at your fingertips whenever you need to. Factors you can control in your benefit amount. As you can see, everything based on your earnings. It's not something mystical, magical. It's what you have worked and paid into Social Security. Can't get plainer than that. So what do? You look at your earnings for the lifetime. And you can see, go into my Social Security account and say, my earnings are really not going to be that high. Here I am, 35 years old. I've been working and paying into Social Security, but I'm self-employed. I'm here and I'm working where they do not take Social Security out of my employment check. Guess what? You can already be aware of the fact that you are not going to be receiving a lot of Social Security, if any at all, depending on how much you have worked and paid into Social Security. So, what can you do? Well, I've talked to some people, like I had mentioned, that there are people that do not have Social Security taken out of their checks. Most commonly, I live in Texas, and there are people that work for the teacher retirement system. They will have offsets, or they won't have any Social Security taken out. Some people get part-time jobs to help pay for their Medicare or whatever when they get to that point, they might get some benefits. If you are married and your spouse has worked and paid into Social Security, you'll receive Social Security possibly benefits on that record, or you can also receive Medicare on that record on your spouses if they have worked and paid into Social Security. But if you are a single person and you want to work and pay into Social Security, then you can look at your earnings and see, maybe I need to adjust where I'm working. Maybe if I want to work and pay into Social Security, I need to know that this is what I'm going to receive. Now, I mentioned earlier making a My Social Security account. That's a possibility. But make sure that when you look at that account and you ask for your estimated amount that you're going to receive when you do retire, because you can do that, an estimator, retirement estimator. What you can look at and see that amount, but understand this. When they figure it on that calculator, they are projecting that that's how much you're going to work and earn from now until you start your benefits. Well, we know that that's not always true. But also remember this, that's some of the best tools that you have. Now, you can go into the Social Security regulations and see that there might be some ways that you can figure up or calculate for yourself a more accurate PIA, primary insured amount, than what is on the SSA calculator. But SSA calculator gives you a place to start, okay? Now, the age that you receive your benefits is also a factor in how much you can receive from Social Security. As most of us are aware, when you start receiving benefits before full retirement age, they are reduced, okay? And that is, I'm talking about retirement, okay? I'm not talking about disability benefits. I'm talking about retirement. If you receive benefits prior to age 62, or I'm sorry, if you receive benefits prior to the full retirement age, if you receive benefits prior to full retirement age and their retirement benefit, you will have them reduced. Now, once you receive benefits at full retirement age, they will be unreduced. The other thing is, if you receive benefits after full retirement age and under age 70, you can receive what they call delayed retirement credits. That's extra credit that you receive each month for not receiving a Social Security check. So let's say you are 70. Your full retirement age was 68. Then between 68 and 70, you would receive what we call full retirement age, delayed retirement credits. So let me say that again, okay, because I fumbled a little bit, but let me say this again. To receive higher benefits after your full retirement age, you can receive what is called delayed retirement credits up until age 70. You cannot receive delayed retirement credits after age 70. So they are effective with the month you turn full retirement age to the month you turn 70. You can receive extra credit for each month that you do not receive a Social Security check. Keep that in mind. That is another way to receive a higher benefit, okay? So, what are we talking about today? So we're looking at the fact that there are ways for you to be aware of your Social Security benefit. Be aware of how much you can receive benefits. Be aware of how your benefits are figured. Now, we've talked about retirement benefits. Well, let's talk about disability. Disability benefits are figured when they look at 5 out of the last 10 years before you became disabled. Let's say you became disabled in 2000, and they look at 5 out of the last 10 years. So they look at between 2000, I'm sorry, let's look at 2020. 2020, from 2020 going back 10 years, and that's 2010. So between that span, you have to have worked 5 out of the last 10 years to be insured for Social Security disability. You have to have enough quarters, and that's 40 quarters of coverage between that 10-year period. So what does that mean for you? You have to make sure that you have worked and paid into Social Security enough to receive Social Security disability benefits for you and your family. Well, let's say you did not work and pay into Social Security enough to have those 40 quarters. Then you are not insured for Social Security disability. Your family is not insured for Social Security disability benefits on your record. So that means that there are no benefits entitled to you on the disability. Well, does that mean that you would not be eligible for retirement? No. Like I said when we started, there are different ways to calculate retirement and disability. You might not be eligible for the disability because you have not worked 5 out of the last 10 years and have 40 quarters of coverage, but you might have enough work for the retirement. So when you become of age, you can receive the retirement benefits, because remember, it looks at your lifetime of work and they index those earnings. When you look at the disability, then you're looking at a period of time for your retirement. Let's say, not for your disability. Let's say that you are working, and at this point you're working at a good job. You have steady earnings, everything's going well. You stop working. You go back to work. It's at self-employment work. You're not steady. You're not getting a lot of work, and you've been doing this for 15 years. You become disabled. Well, 15 years you've been doing this. You don't have enough work. You haven't paid into Social Security enough to receive the disability, because there again, 5 out of the last 10 years, you have not had the 40 quarters of coverage. You haven't had it. But you have had the lifetime work that you would be eligible for your retirement, because they're going to look at your high 35 years, and you've had that. You had that before you became self-employed. But you do not have enough for the disability benefit, okay? Here's the sad scenario of some people. Let's say, and I keep saying self-employed because when you're self-employed, your earnings can go up and down. You can work 80 hours a week but not have enough for paying into Social Security. That's a problem. And if you don't have enough where you've worked 35 years or enough to receive retirement, and you have not worked enough for disability, then if you become disabled or when you turn 62, you're not eligible for benefits in either program. And this has happened to me. I was very unfortunate to have to tell somebody who was a construction worker, I'm sorry, you're not eligible for disability, because yes, he had worked, but he had not paid his Social Security taxes. He was self-employed, and he said, well, I'm not going to pay the government That's his prerogative, and that's between him and the IRS and the other agencies. But he not only did not have enough quarters of coverage for the 40 quarters, he didn't have enough for retirement. And here he was, unable to work, not because he was not able to work, and he was not able to receive benefits, not because of anything Social Security had done, but he had not worked and paid into the Social Security system. He had not paid Social Security when he had taxes. He did not pay his income tax. He had all these expenses, and unfortunately, he was not able to receive any benefits now for disability or in the future for retirement. He would have to, if he was married, and I do not recall, spousal benefits off of his spouse's record. But that's something that needs to be taken into account for those that are of self-employment, or those that do not work someplace that has Social Security taken out of their check. Something to think about. I hope that this has helped you some. If you have any questions, leave your questions and comments below, or email me or call me at the number below. I appreciate your time, and may God bless you.